cool. You know, they've
Hmm.
got their keto options.
The keto options. So last time Corella and I were in Phoenix, we went to this place, and I genuinely don't remember what it was called. It was definitely a breakfast place. They close at like 3 or 4, and she hates Guy Fieri, like diners,
Okay.
dive-ins, and drives. Can't stand them. I love it. It's just
Yep.
it's just a large man who enjoys eating food and uses a lot of random catchphrases. And we go there, and there's a whole section of the menu that apparently he ate when he went there. He did this place on one of his episodes. I lost my shit. I was so
Uh,
happy.
was it did the place like was it very quote unquote Scottsdale-y?
No, it wasn't in Scottsdale.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it could have been like Mesa
Okay.
area. It wasn't quite north. It was east out
Okay.
there. It was just surrounded by
Yeah.
like suburbs. I mean, there's a strip mall like behind. It was a standalone building.
Okay.
It
Cool.
was definitely it was
It was
delightful.
good though.
It was
Did you
what
like it?
Of course it's great. I mean, I that's one thing about Phoenix I love is that there's this culture, this active culture here in Columbus. It's very white.
Yeah.
If you like gray and you like IPAs, yeah,
Go to
you're gonna
Columbus.
love it. Throw a little Scarlet in there, you're gonna love it. But other than that, like
Yeah.
there's no culture here. There really isn't.
Dude, out
Uh,
here, there's actually some pretty good breakfast spots, but you bring up Guy Fieri or
mhm,
whatever, I can't pronounce his last name.
yeah,
Um, there's this gas station that's pretty close by here. It's called Tom's Thumb.
that
And
sounds great.
dude,
That sounds great.
it's
I don't know.
it's it's a barbecue spot.
Okay,
And Guy Fieri's like that's the first thing you get hit with right when you walk into that place. She'll
his
hate
big
it.
face with white hair.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah,
Guy Fieri was here and he loves this place. And dude, you have a couple of their bites, it's unreal, delicious food. And we just found this other spot that's literally like less than a mile from where I live right now. Really good breakfast, like probably one of the best breakfast burritos I've had in years. I would easily give it my number one right now. There's a place called Cortado. Give them a little shout if there's Phoenix people out here.
okay.
It's super, super good. They have good coffee too, and their pastries are like, to die for.
And just to drive this home, you were raised again. If you were raised in Phoenix, spent like nine
Yeah,
years outside of it, you came back, and you're just now finding out about that place.
yeah,
Like that's how dense that area is. Just with culture and with food spots, like that's incredible. That's
yeah.
so. I
It's
mean, I
cool.
know all the places here to eat. That's it. I found them all.
It's cool. It's cool because I feel like these like small shops, like Tom's Thumb, is unique because it's a gas station, and it's a barbecue spot. That's cool.
Yeah.
Locally, a lot of people are pretty familiar with it, but these little like I would call Cortado like more of like a hole in the wall. It's it's pretty bomb. Like it's impressive what they do because they're coming with like they'll have like adobada burritos, but they put a spin on it, so it's like more Mexican food, and I would say like more like Sonoran style. So it's
Okay.
so damn good, and they
Yeah.
hit it with like your typical American like breakfast burrito.
Do they do
Like
they
they,
do they panini press it when they get done with it?
I don't know what they do to press it, but they
Okay.
definitely press it in some thick
Oh.
oil.
Oh,
I'll
tits.
tell you
Oh
that.
yeah. How does crunch on the outside? You
It's
have
so
to.
good.
You
Yeah,
gotta fill
it's
those
so
arteries up
good.
with something. Might as well be
Yeah,
fats. You know?
yeah, absolutely.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
we've been smashing that probably maybe like once every other week or so. I'll bring Quinn there when I wake her up and
Yeah.
hop her in the car. We're the first people in there, and they're like, "Okay, what are you getting this time?" I'm like, "Still want my double shot."
Yeah.
Get my wife a coffee or a chai, and then we're just like exploring their menu because they got everything.
What kind of coffee do they have? What beans do they use? Is it more like
I don't
Colombian
know.
or is it like Brazilian?
I think they use more of a Colombian, but their roast, they have like their espresso roast that they use, is a very light roast. So it's a blonde espresso, which is what
Oh,
I prefer a lot of the lighter blended, roasted
okay.
coffees. So it to me it tastes great.
Okay. I had my first Brazilian coffee like last week. It was
Hmm.
in a can because again, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. Very white, very basic over here. Had that can. I gotta be honest with you. I never had like Brazilian coffee, like
Mhm.
the bean, whatever. And I was like, this is actually a lot better than a Colombian. I mean, the 90% of things you're gonna get are gonna be Colombian. At least
Yeah.
here, you're gonna see that. I was like, that's really interesting. And then I was actually at Costco this morning on my frantic rush to get back, and I run through the coffee aisle. Of course, coffee at Costco is this giant shot all the way down. Not a single one was Brazilian. It was all Colombian
Yeah,
roast.
yeah, that and Ethiopian, right?
Ethiopia. Okay, I didn't
Ethiopian
see.
blend.
Okay,
That's a pretty popular one.
yeah.
With coffee, so there's a place where so I'm heading to Davenport, Iowa in November,
Okay,
and there I'm excited to go, not just to like go teach and everything, but
yeah,
there's a coffee place there that if you ever find yourself in Davenport, Iowa,
yeah. I'll
you
get right on
gotta
that.
go.
Yeah, right.
It's called like coffee like 392.
Okay,
And that's an impressive cup of coffee. Like probably top five coffee spots I've ever been to. I've been drinking coffee since I was like 15 years old. My first job was Starbucks, second was Coffee Bean, and then
oh
I
wow,
started really trailing into the world of like, okay, I really like coffee. These guys, they figured it out. That the stoner that works there, just like
delightful.
he's awesome. Yeah, he knows
He's
everything
awesome.
there's to know about every little detail of his machine. Like he's obsessed. And dude, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this." I'm like, I trust him. And then sure enough, I was like, dude, this is amazing. He's like, "Oh, well, I changed the temperature on here, so like when it comes out, and when with that little temperature change with this type of bean, he's like, it's really gonna bring it out perfectly." I was like, I love it. I can't wait to drink 18 more shots of your espresso when I
Yeah,
go back in November.
and you know the best part is to get to that one cup with all those changes. How many did he fuck up?
Oh,
Or
I'm
how
sure.
many was like, this is fucking trash, and like threw it out and the fucking hit a dude, be like, that was garbage, and start over again. Like that's the fun part. You ask him that when you're there. Ask him how many did he go through to find that because that would interest me to know
I
how much.
will.
There was one place here, not that you'd ever come back to Columbus, but I know that she has friends in Cleveland.
Friends in Cleveland, friends in Columbus. Yeah.
Okay, okay, so at some point maybe there is a coffee place here called Staub's, and they
Mhm.
do a lot of their own roasts. They actually have a guy that in their actual store in downtown where they actually have the coffee shop, whatever, and then the other half of it is just a sitting room. But about 2/3 of that sitting room is just one or two dudes that stand behind this giant ass counter where you can buy like there's coffee there. And don't get me wrong, it's like upper middle class there.
Mhm.
So you're paying a little extra, but like you're talking like $60 for maybe a pound of coffee.
Damn.
Oh yeah. Like get some stuff that they import it from like Hawaii or from
Okay.
overseas, and they mess with it there to get
Yep.
it down. That's impressive. That's a whole other world. That's like hearing. It's like I know you play guitar, so it's like before you
Mhm.
really started playing guitar, I'm sure you listen to music like that's pretty sweet, and then once you start learning guitar and you get like those the handful of chords, from the E minor to like the F minor, all the basic ones, and then you hear people playing it, you're like, well, that's incredible. That's a whole
Yeah.
other level, especially when like you watch you do you play electric guitar too or just
Yeah.
acoustic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So like when you watch, and this is the only reference I can probably bring up because guys, you and I our age probably catch it. Like if you watch like Creed, back when
Mhm.
Creed was good, before Scott Stapp really started doing all the drugs.
Yeah.
Like you've watched Tremonti like play, and you
Mhm.
watch it like even an Alter Bridge play where he like just crushes it for like 30 seconds, and you watch the music video, it's in real time because you've heard this song however many times live, or you watch it and you watch him like fingering the frets. You're like, yeah, that's pretty
They're
impressive. That's an
professionals.
extreme. Yeah, that's an extreme world. Like how long did it take to get there? How long did it take to get that one cup of coffee?
Yeah. They're
Delightful.
professionals.
I
Yeah.
love it. I
I
love
do
it.
too.
I love extreme environments. That's why I thrive. It's great.
Yeah, dude. I've like especially when it comes to music, it's crazy how good people are at playing instruments of people that you've never heard of. Like there's just so many incredible musicians out there. But the thing that like to me really makes some musicians so special is like the ones that make a song that doesn't get touched by a producer. That
Yeah.
to me is insane. Like I on my Spotify when I warm up, usually what I'm doing is I'm always typing in like demo tracks because I
Okay.
like to hear the original version of what a song was. And I just came across a Green Day one
Hmm.
and it blew my mind because I always had this thought that Green Day for sure, their songs are pretty simple, for the most part. But Basket Case, the
Hmm.
original version of Basket Case, if you listen to it, you'll be like, I know this song, but it's not Basket Case the way that you know it.
Uh,
So it got produced. And it's crazy to know like you can listen to these things and know how someone heard it and was like, hey man, you got a good song here. I'm gonna make it better. And so for me to understand that there's a person out there like their mind works so good at molding something
hmm.
and turning it into like what we know as a hit, and it fucking lasting
Yeah.
so long. Like Basket Case lasted for sure.
Yeah.
People like the moment it starts, people know exactly what
That's like
song
what it
that
is.
is.
Even if they don't know what it is, they know what it is.
Yep, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the first words are, "Do you have the time to listen to me?" Right? Do
Hmm.
you have the time?
Hmm.
It does not start that way, and it just like in your brain, it'll go, "What is happening?" It doesn't start like this.
Yeah.
It's really crazy to me. And so, like for me, like that's the even next level to these musicians that were like Creed. Like they're amazing musicians. They're like
Yeah.
professionals. They do all this stuff, but the guy behind the computer who's just like weaseling it all through is
Yeah.
the one that's doing it with everything.
There's
Like they're the
there's
mastermind.
yeah, there's something to be said for that. Like along the same vein, like I've always been musically inclined. Like my
Mhm.
parents, very young, forced me to play piano. I hated it. I couldn't stand it, but I was good at it. I could never, and I still to this day. You know, some people will learn. This, I mean, it'd be like, do you know, like, you've heard anything about like Elton John's life, where he started off playing piano? Like, did you hear, like,
Mhm.
he was like a fucking stud, where like he would just hear something
Mhm.
and then just kind of like tap away at the piano and like that sounds about right. That sounds better. It sounds better. Better. Oh, that's how to play it. I couldn't.
Yep.
I can't do that.
Yeah, he was
Still
a
get like
savant.
that type of mind where you hear it and then you just kind of a general idea of what the piano is, how to use the pedals, how to go up the shifts, and like don't get it at all. Like, have you seen oh fuck, you'd love this. You have HBO?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen, and it's a 4-part documentary, and for love of me, I can't remember the name of it. But it's about Dr. Dre, and it's
Oh, dude,
about the
he's yeah. I haven't watched it, but I've heard
oh,
amazing things. Yeah,
you're
he's a
okay. Well, so
brilliant
first
mind.
off, yeah, you're failing at life, so you need to do that.
Mhm.
That's 4 hours of your life. I've watched it twice. Watched it all the way through
Sweet.
twice, dude. So yeah, it goes through the whole like NWA and all that jazz, but like the majority of it is like him and the producer, the guy that I forgot his name too, but he like produced studs, like U2. He was
Mhm.
their producer, and just how they work together back and forth, and like
Yeah.
interviewing like Dr. Dre's wife. His wife would be like, "Yeah, he'll just like wake up like 1 a.m. in the morning, leave, and I'll see him like that afternoon, like later in the afternoon, because he just had like a 2-part beat in his head, left, and just spent 10 hours just
Yeah.
figuring it out. like,
Yep.
like what?
So the
That's crazy.
yeah. So
I
so someone that will also, I mean, just building upon and building upon. I have millions of stories of these kind of musicians,
oh
but
yeah,
Chris Cornell,
I heard
the
he's
song
yeah,
Black Hole Sun.
yeah,
He wrote that song driving in his car at like 4 a.m. after a bender
nice.
and hummed it and then put it into a recording when he got home, like just hummed it, grabbed his guitar and started playing, but he had already thought of the words, like most of the
Hmm.
words, like Black Hole Sun, won't you
Yeah,
come?
yeah.
Like that part, that little line was like, he's like, I know I have this line. And then when he first played it, he claims that he just played it one time and never listened to his hum track back ever again. Not once.
And that was when he was the audio slave.
No, this is
No.
before that. This is Soundgarden.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because he was what? He
Yeah.
was Soundgarden, audio slave. Was that it?
That was so
The group
Soundgarden.
wise.
Yeah, so Soundgarden happened like
Yeah. Okay.
90s, right?
Okay.
Audio Slave came together because that's like Rage Against the Machines meets Soundgarden.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, when they were making like super groups.
Uh,
Hi, Quinn. Hi. You decided to. Look who decided to join us real briefly. Yeah. Hello, can you hear her? No, she's saying hi.
he's like, no, hello.
Say hi, Quinn.
She's mean mugging me. She's like, this is not
Yes.
my Sunday. This is
But
not my Sunday.
so yeah, like that kind of stuff to me is like your brain power, the capacity to be able to do that is just, it's insane. Like for me, when I was learning how to play guitar, my cousin taught me how to play a power chord.
Okay.
And he's like, that's all you really need to know. And now if you could play this, you could play any song in the world. And all the way back to Green Day, I would take my Dookie album and I would pause play every note. So I'd go play and I'd hear the note, pause real fast, and I'd go on that fretboard and play that power chord until I found the matching note.
Yeah.
And then I continued, then I'd play it back so I made sure I had it right. But dude, it would take me hours and hours just to get one little section.
Right. Because that was what year was that? Because
I was like,
there wasn't YouTube then.
No, I was
and
11.
we didn't have the app tabs back then, so you couldn't just
look I was 11, so this was,
some people listening to this like, this is, what was he doing? My God.
Yeah, this is over 20 years ago. It's weird to say out loud. So that's how I learned how to play. And I always, when I would hear those stories like at Elton John's, or I watch on like TikTok or YouTube's or whatever, and you see these people that are like, oh, this person's hearing this song for the first time, and then they just play it, or they can play along and anticipate what's next because they know structure of notes.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's just like next level savant, smart, powerful brain. It's crazy.
It's a different type of brain. Like in that, like the point you said where it's like they know what goes next. Like I get that. But like to do what you did where you hear it and then you're just kind of like find it. No way. My brain does not operate like that at all.
It's super monotonous. You have to have good patience.
It is. But like, to be fair too, like I've known a lot of people that, again, so like I've been in the world's strength and conditioning for at least over a decade, and I'll sit down with people who are relatively new, and I'll write out like, this is just a basic plan, and they'll look at that and that blows their mind. But in my mind, I'm like, that's basic as hell. Like if I sat down with name the guitarist, and the guy hit what, a 5 chord, I don't know what, I'd look at it and be like, well, I don't know how you contort your hand to a B major because my trigger and middle finger don't spread like that. It's not possible.
It's hard.
I don't know. I know
it's really hard.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. Like, you straight down, you muted it, and then you hit everything else. Okay, cool. Can't do it. And he's like, yeah, so that's really basic. So I think everyone has that in their own way. They have like their own thing they're so fucking good at. Like you with like marrying the world of chiropractic into strength and conditioning, like no one else can do what you do. Exactly how you do it. It's not, but people will see it. Like even I'll look at some things you do, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like that's that'd be like a dirty like James Bond movie where I snap someone's neck. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not. That's not my lane. Fuck no.
It's a lot easier than people think. And it's a lot safer than what people know.
That's what every chiropractor always says. And I don't know if that's just because they want to say that to keep getting money or what. Because
as they're holding your head.
Yeah, I've had one person adjust my neck one time. He did both sides, and he says like, all right, so we'll start with that next time. Like, no, we won't. Fuck, we won't. I had a guy, like the other guy that adjusted my neck. He has like this. I have no. Maybe you know what this tool is. It's like an air gun.
An activator.
Sure, an activator, and it like you feel it's like this little pop of air, like, and like I don't know. Does that actually put your neck back in place? Is that what it does? What does that do?
Well, that's a very loaded question, Joe Lasco.
Oh, good.
So first we have to first we're gonna have to dissect it. I hope you don't mind.
Okay.
The way we're gonna dissect this
is dumb words. Pretend I'm from the peanut system and just treat me like that because I am in this. So.
Okay, so bones, people have this thought that bones go out of place, right? Like, here's my bone, it's in this spot, and this is this bone, this is in this spot. And right now, today, for some reason, my bone decided to now shift and be out of alignment, quote unquote, right? That's never been proven in literature that that is a physical thing. So that's number one. But let's just say in the world of that is happening, I would like for someone to explain to me how a click to a structure that has, um, you know, let's just say for those two bones, insane amounts of attachment sites of ligaments, connective tissue, musculature that's a lot stronger, like neurologically in regards to like multifidus. You've got a lot of stuff in the way to prevent things from either being quote unquote pulled out of alignment or being quote unquote pushed back in. So we're saying that this little clicker is going to do that. To me, I don't think it's humanly possible. To some people, I think they feel a perception of relief for some reason, and there's many mechanisms that we can contemplate in theory as to why that might occur, all the way down to like the stimulation of the nerve endings at the superficial level of like your skin, and how that's a positive thing. So, not to say they're not capable of helping people get out of pain, but I don't think it's physically humanly possible to mobilize a joint when a joint is just static and then I go and touch it. So a manipulation, for instance, like when someone grabs your head and puts you in that vulnerable position, that makes more sense to me in regards to restoring motion and decreasing muscle tone and having people feel that looseness, like their head back in alignment, um, because that's a perception. It's not necessarily a physical thing. And if you do have a bone out of alignment, you got a way bigger problem.
Yeah.
You got a structural issue. That's not good.
Yeah.
Chiropractors can't fix that. Neither can a PT. Yeah. So that's my long-winded answer to do activators work? Yes and no.
Okay. So
I lean more
activator.
towards no.
Yes, activator is
It's
just
a
so we're on the same
term.
page. Is like a hard shot of air. That
Yeah, it's a spring mechanism.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
People usually call it when I have patients that come in that have had experience with that. They'll say, "Oh yeah, he used the clicker thing on me," and I'm like, "Okay, have you had experience with anything else other than a clicker?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "I'm about to blow your mind with the noise that comes out of your body.
Yeah.
This is gonna
Yeah.
be a completely different experience." So this is where it's like not all chiropractic care is the same. You
Yeah.
know, just as not all coaching is the same, not all programs are the same. Everything's written a little different, and experience has a lot to do with that, with how you write that. And you know, there's times where I have patients where it's like, you know what, they probably would be better fit to have someone to be more gentle with them, and they can't tolerate like manual therapy very well, so the clicker or the activator might be a good choice for them to at least experience some sort of pain relief, right? So I don't completely shut it out as a modality, but I just don't do it personally. I just tell them
Yeah.
to go seek it somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean that same time he did my neck, he
Mhm.
also used it on I think it was like my sacral to really low lumbar.
Yep.
And he was very adamant like this is going to like boost your performance. And I'm a very skeptical person. I've seen and heard a lot of stuff in my world. So I will say that was on a Sunday. I went to I was training Westside the next morning. I pulled 475 out of a 14 and a half inch deficit. Now was it, I don't know, could I have done that but without the clicker?
Without the clicks.
Maybe. I don't know. I never tried it again because that was a long strain. It's very long. I'm not doing that again. But yeah, to be fair, I don't know either.
I'm
That's a very good approach.
Yeah, well, you know, the power of perception, the power of confidence is huge. You
Yeah.
know, like I think there's something to it when someone comes in like, "Oh yeah, I got you. This is gonna boost you, dude. You have no idea." And I it's too unknown to put like a perfect staple on it. Like it's like, "Yep, boom." this is the reason why. It's like everybody wants to know the reason why something happened, and I'm just I've gotten as I get older, I'm like, I really don't know. I do know that if your confidence in your abilities after something and you feel good, I do think that people start to showcase things that they were a little more hesitant to do 24 hours prior to that or 48 hours prior to that,
Mhm.
especially in the world of people that are not injured.
Oh, yeah, there's no hindrance at all
Yeah.
at
Where
that point
versus
too.
the person that's like, I feel off.
Yeah.
Something doesn't feel right, right? I'm tight, I'm stiff, I just don't feel myself,
Yeah.
but you're not injured. And
Mhm.
so with those cases, I mean, those are some of my favorite cases to come in and some of my least favorite cases to come in because when I work on them, I know that it's going to be a while until I see them again. So
Mhm.
financially for my business, it's not the best, but I do know like, hey, this person is not dealing with an injury. Like they don't have a disc issue right now, or their facet isn't swollen and having a problem. But when they have an issue, they're going to go try to pull that number,
Mhm.
and long before it, they won't be able to do it because they're injured.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with the system. The system is broken. It's it needs time to recover. So in those cases where people do better, like really quickly, I would argue that there wasn't an injury because if you're diagnosing someone with plantar fasciitis and they wake up
Mhm.
the next day and their plantar fasciitis is magically gone, you can't heal the inflammatory cycle that fast. That's physiologically impossible.
Yeah.
So it had to have been something else. It's just a misdiagnosis at the end of the day.
Yeah. How do you feel about well, I mean, I have this theory. It's not really a theory. It's probably a fact. But this here we go. Like, I understand that there are a lot of coaches who like doing isometric not prehab work, but isometric activation work for
Mhm.
ballistic, like actual work. So I I'm tossing this out of a hat. So just a standing half squat, just holding that position for a power clean, and then going into a power clean using that. Are you a fan of that?
No.
No, good. Okay, neither am I. No, no, no. Like you can't. I just think you can't use static means for ballistic preparation. Like I love a Theragun. Theraguns
Yeah.
are awesome, but just
Mhm.
not before I'm dropping into a max clean and jerk.
Yeah.
I'm just not
It,
doing it.
passive modalities give you passive outcomes is something I say almost daily
Hmm.
to patients. But in regards to the training, it's like if you're about to have an adventure into the ballistic or maximum strength output world, boy, you better know how to physically prepare for that
Yeah,
because your outcomes will be so much better.
yeah.
You'll feel more like, oh, you just have that, your juices are flowing. It's like one thing that I learned from my coach at the CrossFit gym I went to
Hmm.
in Sacramento. His name's Gary Barron. He's
Gary Barra.
phenomenal coach,
Hmm.
and he was so good at preparing people for competition. In the midst of competition, he'd be there lingering and he'd be like, what time are you supposed to go? And it's like, oh, I go in like an hour. He's like, dude, get your ass up. This is a really short workout. So you need to be moving right now. Let's get you moving now. His preparation for your the work that you're about to put in, he really understood that from like a CrossFit standpoint. And I always prided him on that. I'm like, it's like it was very different. And he had a lot of people on the podium for local competitions, outside local competitions. Like they were a top dog CrossFit team in the CrossFit games back when it was cool in like the early uh 2010 to 2015s.
Hmm.
And they were undersized. They called themselves the Honey Badgers, but
Hmm.
man, they were fucking animals. And I think a lot of it has to do with how he knew how to prepare someone to go into a workout.
Hmm.
Like, here's what we're gonna do. If it's a
Hmm.
long workout, we got a short interval to get our heart rate. Like, let's bring it up, and then we're gonna bring it back down. If it's a short workout, we're just going to warm ourselves up for an extended period of time and not try to steal a ton of juice, and just be like, maintain a good heart rate. And then we're going to cool off for a little bit for like 20 minutes. And then we're going to go hit it. So you're not that person doing burpees in the back 5 minutes before a workout, which
Right.
a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah.
Same thing for the lifts, like the lifting components. He was so smart with his progress for when they would be like, all right, we got a complex for this event. It's 2 power clean, or 2 deadlifts and 2 power cleans, max effort. Like, what's the biggest you can lift? He would always go out there, and you want to know what that guy did? One. He would do one. And people are always like, no rep. And then everybody look at him like he was doing something crazy. And next thing you know, he's fucking deadlifting, 350 for a double and power cleaning for a double in that complex, 350, when the one before was 335 for a single.
Yeah.
Just one deadlift, one power clean. Oh, yeah, that's good. I know I can hit this. Boom, put it on, big confidence, hit it. And then he's like, all right, let's see where we can go from there.
Yeah.
And he was a master of it.
Oh yeah. No, a lot of people like burning the candle right up to the time. It's really time to burn both sides. And I don't get it. Like it's almost like in that scenario, if you're like an hour out from it and you're messing around for 40, I'm not messing around, but you're moving for 40 minutes, like you said, like nothing crazy, but light. And then you said like 20 minutes, you kind of like let it bring stuff down a little bit. Yeah, you blow the candle out, you blow the fire out, but the embers are still hot now. Yep. So all you need to do now is like blow a little harder on it, throw some paper on it, it blows back up, as opposed to everyone else who's going to take that 20 minutes leading into it to get to that, and then they're just burning. They're burning, they're sucking. Yep. That's funny, because this actually comes into the first question.
Ooh.
I have. So this is a writing question, and it was, how do you know when you have hit the point precisely with your athlete? So in this position, hitting the point being you did it right. Like how do you know that?
For myself, we have objective outcomes that we're always looking for. That's number one. So whether it's like a strength outcome, a range of motion outcome, a specific like endurance outcome, a specific heart rate interval outcome, I think that it's not necessarily that we, in regards to like when I'll use the fighters, for example, while we're doing the work, for me, it's how quickly can they recover? That's probably my biggest concern. Okay. How quickly can this person have this huge strength outcome and then also have it come back down like physiologically? So I think more from the lines of the sympathetic drive versus the parasympathetic drive. How quickly can this person shift in and out of that? If they're getting really bad at it, that objective outcome, you can see it with their heart rate, their breathing, maybe how they're feeling later in regards to like the other training things that they're doing, their sleep. When we hit it right, for us, it always seems to be this really solid blend of our numbers have not been going down in regards to strength. Our range of motion capacity has been continuously sticking or going up as we're expanding. And their endurance is feeling and showing heart rate wise, it's lower. So those are our big hitters. And those are the things that I typically look for them. And their sleep has been very, very, very consistent. So they're getting quality REM sleep and quality deep sleep. I don't care necessarily about the complete number of sleep that they're getting. Like, is it 8 hours or 7 hours? It's like, no, I want that REM and deep really being there, because more than likely as they're getting closer to a fight, they're sleeping like shit because they're hungry.
Oh yeah.
They're very hungry.
They're hungry, they're stressed. Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah. As long as they get some REM, they get some deep, we're doing pretty good. We're operating. And that usually sets the tone in the environment for the cut. So the cut is probably the biggest thing that shows us if, from my standpoint, if I did a good job. That's to me. I think that really weighs the most on a strength coach. Like, did you do enough to prepare this person's body to not become catabolic, to are they matching their nutritional needs to this system? And where are we pulling water from? And how easy was that? So the easier it is, like when like Dre will pull water, and dude, he'll lose 10 pounds of water in like an hour and a half, sometimes like an hour. It's really fast. When that's happening, I'm sitting there thinking he has good tissue in his body.
Yeah.
We did a good job. When it's not happening, now I'm looking back at, okay, did we hit the nutritional standards? Let me go there first. He did. Okay, this is probably a little more on me. He has a little more body fat than I anticipated, and we didn't do a good job there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably where I'll go with the fighters in regards to it's a lot of systems to find the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But I don't try to put it on one thing. What about you? How do you know your sweet spot typically?
You know, I always tell my athletes, like, if we come in the gym and every day, no matter if we're doing something, really anything. So if you want to go like real old school, like Westside conjugate system, like max effort and dynamic, or in more of like what I do now, which is more of what pieces do we need to get better at to help your sport? Like we talked about the other week when it comes like CrossFit, like individual like muscle groups and how everything chains together to go into their world. If we're winning 60% of the time for sets or reps, or we're getting the execution is getting more refined, that maximal precision is coming in, we're winning 60% of the time when we come in. You're winning all these battles every day of the week. There's no way that you get worse.
Yeah.
There's no way. So that's my number one. And my number two, it used to be like, I always tell people this, like, I don't want to work with you to win something. Like I want to work with you so you just dominate whatever you need to do. Whatever your sport is, whatever your KPIs are, dominate it. And now I'm getting to a point where it's like many people I work with, it's not even like dominating. It's when you go on the field of play, whether it is practice or whether it is the actual competition, I want you to actually be able to, for the majority of the time, play with whoever you're matched up on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just granted, there are some people you work with, like they're going to go up against an absolute stud. Like there's a 5-star recruit and their wide receiver, and this 5-star recruit's a cornerback. Like that's going to be a rough day.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how you slice that. If you're both fives, that's great, but it's going to be rough. Like every level you go to, there's something like that.
Yeah.
But at some point, if we can get to a level where you're like, I'm just playing with these people, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
I always look for verbiage with what they say. If they come in and they tell me, yeah, I'm feeling really springy, they give me that verb, everything's correct. Like almost, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to debate. Like an athlete, I feel really boundy and I'm
Yeah.
explosive. That means they're explosive. That means they're faster. That means that
Mm-hmm.
amortization phase is nice and low, so they're just reverting. That to me, once they tell me that, like, good for you, for your body, I look back at that last 10 to 21 days, I'm like, that, whatever the volume is, that is it. That's like the sauce.
Yeah.
That's the intensity sauce. That's the volume sauce. Some people, they respond better, combination resistance versus non-combination resistance, or, at that point, I just know it works.
Yep.
And that's what I know for sure. For sure. So there,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you know me, I love technology, but one day you're gonna have to help John Connor make the army without the technology. So you gotta learn to do it with your eyes. You gotta learn to do it with actually understanding the athletes you're working with.
Yeah, like the feel component is funny to me because I don't know if I told this story already, but I remember before one of the fights, my guy he tore his supraspinatus 2 weeks before the fight, and right before the weight cut, we were doing this last, like, he was doing some pad work, getting the sweat going, and we're all just hanging out, and he turned to me, he's like, "This is the best I've ever felt." I was like, "Oh my god, dude,
Good.
awesome!" But it's like, that's to me that's such a crazy thing. I'm like, your arm is
Yeah.
you're getting surgery in like 5 days. Like that's
Yeah.
what's gonna happen. We know that's happening. But like his perception of how how good he feels. I'm like, that's just, you can't argue that. Like,
No,
we did what we
you
could in
can't.
regards to
Yep.
triaging the issue,
Yep.
and we did the best we could to maintain the things that he feels are most important to him leading into it, which is like leg endurance, breath, and explosivity. If he could still do that, it's good enough to be able to beat the fuck out of somebody.
Yeah.
And and it's like that's just like that's the mentality piece of working with an athlete. I had a guy recently. He just set the world record for the velodrome. Are you familiar with velodrome cycling?
That, I mean,
That's the
yes, but
it's the indoor circle,
yes, yeah,
right?
yes,
The
but
indoor
yeah, I don't know the
circle.
nuances of it, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, lunatic. This guy's a fucking powerhouse, dude. He's a
What do his
Clydesdale.
quads look like?
Like he's insanely jacked in his legs. Like they're massive, dude. But
It's like a
this is
little
a guy
jockey,
that
but with muscle. It's just
but dude, so he's bigger than me.
oh,
He's like he played rugby professionally. He played football in college. He
oh,
was
he's
like an
got
all
thick
sport
legs.
guy.
Oh
He
hell
was a
yeah.
power lifter.
Oh yeah.
He set the state record for bench press when he was like 14 years old in Connecticut, which was like, like I think it was somewhere close to the fours. He squatted over 600 pounds at 18 years old. He is a beast. And my buddy Conrad, um, help do all of his physical training to get him in preparation for this thing. He's done it before and he set the world record, but some dude came out and beat it like a month later by like we're talking microseconds.
Yeah.
That pissed him off. He's like, I'm gonna train for a while and this guy ain't touching it. And he put his best leg forward, and I was doing more of the therapeutic side of things to help him prepare. And Conrad was just like blasting him with awesome blocks of training. And that guy kept coming in, just like saying the same thing every single time. He's like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm going to smash this world record. It's going to happen. Conrad's got me on point. And he knew it by week one. And then when we were 2 weeks out from the actual event, he was just sitting there talking about how, like, he's like, dude, it's crazy to me how, explosive I have become at this age, because he's a master's writer. So, he's like, I just keep getting better. And he's not using, because they test these people.
Mm.
And he was like, I mean, he went out there, dude, and he crushed it. He absolutely crushed it. And he came back and he's just like, I want more. He's like, and I think I can get more.
Yeah, because here's the thing: if the train's not slowing down, why the fuck do you get off the train? You don't,
Dude,
babe.
they're still pushing. Yeah,
You
they're
don't
still going.
exactly.
Yeah.
You don't like going back. So two things, like going back to the previous thing you said, where it's like about feel. It's a great indicator. Like I tell this to people virtually every week, at least once a week. You cannot debate feel.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're talking about what you feel on a tricep push down, or what you're talking about feeling when you're doing a box jump or running. If the athlete tells me like I'm feeling Baker Mayfield dangerous today, and I have been for a
Mm-hmm.
while, like yes, yeah, that's a very
Yeah.
very good spot. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a very good
Dial it
spot.
up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep it going.
absolutely. And like to his point, like when he's going there as training, and like you're blocking things out however you want to, wave it or block however it goes. Like, yeah, if you're doing it right and you're showing the body something it's never seen, it 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 has to adapt to that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing it appropriately, like there shouldn't be like this, oh, I hit 30, so now I'm just, a piece of shit.
Yep.
Like you hit 30, if you've been training in relatively the same modality for the last decade, no. Now it's time to really just put that pedal down and
Mm-hmm.
make it fucking happen. Like that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
So
I love
delightful.
working with this guy. His name's Carl. Carl's like he has that mental block inside, like where it's just like everything goes black and his body just puts maximum power output. I'm pretty sure his average watt cadence for that world record was like close to the 600s was
Mm.
the average, which
Yeah.
means like he says that when he first comes out the gate, he's typically around 1,000 watts for the first like 45 seconds to a minute.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know if you've ever been on a bike,
That's what I was
those
gonna
type
go.
of
That's the
bikes.
next thing I was gonna say. Yeah.
That's insane.
Like I've touched like mid sixes for like almost 30 seconds. and then
It
I die.
hurts.
I die.
Yeah, it
Like I die.
hurts. Yeah, it
I
hurts.
don't
It
continue.
hurts a
I can't
lot.
continue that. Like I could hold 450 for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, but like no, no,
Yeah.
no. Mid sixes,
One
I
of the
die. Like 20, 30 seconds, it's over.
one of the coaches at our spot PFS, Brandon Harris, he has a thing called an SMO2
Okay.
tracker. So basically, what it's doing, he'll be able to explain it better than I can, but it's measuring blood hemoglobin levels in the thigh.
In the thigh.
Yeah, or you
Nice.
could put it on the arm if you
Oh, okay.
want it, but
Anywhere.
he,
So
he
okay.
does it.
Okay.
Yeah, he uses the thigh so he can keep it always like super consistent.
Yeah.
And we did it together one time, and we were testing it on an assault bike, and we did this like slow ramping of power output for 10 minutes.
Ooh.
and and I was like, and he's like, your feel on a bike, because I've been on a bike, I can't tell you how many times, on an assault bike. And I was like, yeah, you're probably going to want me to stay here for another 2 minutes. And then, yeah, we're going to stay at this rate for another 2 minutes, and this rate for another 3 minutes. And it was pretty painful, a pretty painful test. But I told him, I started telling him about Carl. I was like, you just have to do it to Carl, because I'd be so curious to see how how long it takes for him to lose that oxygenation in the system, but how good he is at staying above it in regards to power output,
Yeah.
because he's probably insanely good at that. So it's like his CO2 tolerance is probably through the roof. His lactic acid threshold is probably through the roof, and has insane markers that you probably rarely see out of let's just say like lower echelon athletics.
Mhm.
Upper echelon athletics, you're going to see some really cool stuff, but the lower, like this guy, he's a masters, so like how seriously are people going to take him? Let's be honest. Like
Yeah.
they're not going to take that like in depth, but I think that's where you would see it, and you have to respect it. It's like, dude, this guy's doing things that quote unquote 20-year-olds are doing, and they smash him. His buddy that's like in his 60s, he's also another guy. It's just like insane stuff they're doing in this velodrome bike. I'm learning a ton about velodrome. I'll never do it. It seems terrifying
Yeah.
to move that fast and go in a circle with 8 other people that close to you.
Hmm.
You're eating shit.
Yeah.
Like
A
it's
lot of people
just
thought things happen
guaranteed.
real quick.
You're
Oh yeah.
crashing. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
crashing. You're getting wood in your skin and breaking
Hmm.
bones, and a lot of bad stuff can happen. But it's really, really fascinating to me. I never really thought about like, oh, that's a sport I'm gonna start paying attention to. But I have been the past like 8 months just because of them. It's like it's fascinating, dude. Like you got to see some of this stuff. It'll blow your mind what some of these 60-year-old dudes are doing, and they look like animals.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you got?
So I had a question for you,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit of a swing away from that, but I hope that's okay.
Oh yeah.
You asked, so for the audience, my
Mm.
wife, when we met Joe over at Westside, we're all hanging out, and Joe was doing some stuff with us and showing us everything, being so cordial.
I
And my
am.
wife decided that she wanted to get some programming done by Joe, but you asked her a certain question. And I think that this is a really cool question to kind of dive into, that maybe not a lot of people focus on when they're first starting to work with anybody.
Yeah.
So let's say like outside of athletics, right? So we'll go more towards general pop, but people that want to feel athletic. You asked her a question, and I don't know the exact wording, but it was, do you want to be strong? Do you want to be kind of strong and look good, or do you just want to look good? I think that was the wording that you used.
Yeah. It's a little more aggressive wording than that, but yeah. Yeah. That's the general gist of
Um,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought because she was in that place where she was not sure with what she wanted to do with her strength, because she was decently strong at that time, and she
Hmm.
was like, well, I think I could take this to another place. She had decent numbers,
Yeah.
but I think you did a good job poking the truth out of her. So
Hmm.
where does that come from for your coaching, and how you're do you think about that before you ask that question, or is it just the question that naturally comes out of you?
That's one of the bigger questions that I ask people that are, I don't want to say like, so if I remember of her at that time, she was she was dense. Like I remember doing inverse curl and like putting my finger on her glute to make sure like it was locked. and it was like touching a stone. I remember it was
Yeah.
very like all of her musculature was very dense. So I mean she was doing CrossFit at the time, correct?
No, Jess has never done CrossFit.
Okay, what was she doing at the
Yeah.
time?
At
How was
that
she?
time, she was just kind of powerlifting-ish with a trainer here.
Okay,
And she was slowly getting out of it, and just kind of doing some training on her own.
yeah.
But that was, yeah, she had just gotten to the point where she was like back squatting, like I want to say somewhere around like 285, 295 for doubles and triples, and pulling 315, 320 off the floor.
Yeah. Well, so for me, like, and guys, you ask guys that question, they're usually gonna say, "Yeah, I want to be just strong as fuck."
Yeah.
You guys females that question, typically you're gonna get, "Yeah, I want to look really good." That's
Mhm.
typically where it's gonna go. Uh, if they're not in a specific like headlong into a sport, I do ask that question. So
Mhm.
it's like a three-prong answer. So it's like strong as fuck. I want middle of the road, or I want to look like it, but I want to look good in a bathing suit or look good not in a bathing suit. If you catch my drift.
Mhm.
So because that dictates a lot of change. Like if you want to be
Yeah.
absolutely strong, well, your volume really on the whole is going to be relatively low because you're trying to just your nervous system can't tolerate a Ronnie Coleman diet where you're
Yeah.
just lifting heavy AF, high volume, twice a day, 6 days a week. It's not going to be a reality. He's an outlier. He's a freak. Um, there will be people who would say like, well, in X, Y, and Z system, you lift a lot of volume on this day and low volume on that day. Like, well, yeah, you can to a certain extent. But lifting low volume on one day and high volume on other is very different from lifting high volume on both days. The caloric
Mhm.
output you're gonna put forth. The sleep is gonna dictate a lot. Your lifestyle is gonna dictate a lot. So I asked that question just to get an idea, really just where they're going.
Mhm.
There's no sexy over the top answer to that. I wish I had a sexy over the top answer, but I don't. I
Yeah.
really don't. It's simply just to know where their headspace is at. And sometimes, not all the times, and I don't remember if she had this moment, when I asked that question, there's a legitimate pause and they don't know. And it's very
Mhm.
odd to me. Sometimes I ask that question, people just don't have an answer. I'm like, well, then why are you here?
Yep.
Like, why are you asking me or anyone else to work with you if you don't even know where this train's going? But at
Yeah.
least if I have a direction, we're going to California, we're going to New York, we're going to Mexico. At least I know a general direction of where we're
Yeah.
going. That's pretty much it. Wish I had a
No,
sexy
that's
answer
cool.
for you on that one, but I don't.
No, well, it's just a question that it's such a simple question,
Hmm.
and I do think that simplicity tends to get overlooked a lot of times. Like, and it fits into the world of therapy, like manual therapy, and working on people, making them feel better. Like, what I ask the question to every single one of my patients, like, what's your goal? And 9 times out of 10, they say to get out of pain. And I'm like, well, duh, dude,
Yeah.
I know that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I'm not stupid. Like,
Yeah.
this is very obvious. Of course you want to get out of pain, but what's your real goal? Like, why are you here? There's a reason why you decided to come, outside of feeling like this has to be limiting you from something you enjoy to do, like doing. It's so much so that you decided to come pay me money to make that happen. What's that thing? I want to know what that thing is. And that will help me get you and push you into that direction, or at least like you said, going to California, sometimes going there might take a little longer. We might hit some traffic, we might have to take a detour, but at least we know there's a destination. And if I'm physically not capable of getting you there, like I'm running out of gas, then I have to refer you to someone. At least I know that that is the outcome that we're looking for, and that's what I try to do. And I do think that it gets overlooked by a ton of people, because they're like, I'm the strength specialist, so people are just going to come to me because they all just want strength. And it's like, well, as you're saying, a lot of people don't even know what they want.
Yeah.
Like this a good example I can give you is, I mean, I just had to be harsh with a patient the other day, and I feel bad about it sometimes, but I also don't, because I care a ton, and it's a big deal with what she was dealing with. But she's so headstrong at times that sometimes you have to, like, lay the hammer down and be like,
Yeah.
hey, wait, this is what's happening. What you're doing is extremely detrimental to your health. You're telling me you have health goals. We talked about this. You say, I want to be healthy. I want to be able to play with my grandkids and do these things. And I was like, this is what I think is happening. I think you have a broken bone in your body, and you're not willing to go get this x-ray referral that we're taking, and you think that going and rowing on the rowing machine and biking on the bike machine and doing Pilates is the idea because you have to be fit because that's healthy. I was like, but what you're doing is clearly unhealthy. So what are we talking about here? And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, well, it'll heal. I'm like, it won't. I was like, and then here's what we're really dealing with. This is the truth of it. You're in your 60s. You broke your bone without even falling or blunt trauma. You just kind of twisted and it broke. So you're extremely fragile.
Yeah.
You're not strong. Your bones are not strong from like structural integrity. I'm not talking like you can't pick up heavy weights. I'm talking like you fall, like bad stuff is going to happen.
Yeah.
And being at that age and being where it's broken, you're risking a lot of terrible health factors, which would be in a list of terrible things, a pneumothorax, which is not good. Getting pneumonia for old people or older people is not
Not
good.
good.
For someone that's hyper obsessed with training, you're putting yourself more at risk for that. If you happen to get pneumonia, you're going to make it way, way, way worse. And also non-union fractures, which causes lack of blood flow to there. What can happen there? Necrosing tissue and lysis issues. Like, that's not good. This is unhealthy. These are things that can kill you at a faster rate and make you not live, which is what your goal is, to live longer. So when you drop the hammer on her like that, finally she's like, okay, fine, I'll get this x-ray. Like,
Yeah.
good. Good.
Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes you gotta do that. And I've dealt with athletes too who
Mhm.
maybe, they, and this typically comes from, I guess it could go to that question where they were athletic at some point, they were a professional athlete at some point, or they were very high in competitive CrossFit, or they're coming out of the tactical world and they don't know where to go. They know they want to be active, but they don't. It's not. I don't need a goal, but you need to have like an action plan to like, okay, I know that this is where my heart really lies. So in that case, like she wants to play with her grandchildren, like that's where your heart lies. Now
Yep.
back that up. Now what the fuck do you need to do to make sure that happens? It's like these athletes too. Like some of them, they end up. I finally again, I get it out of them. It's like I just want to look good. Like okay, now let's back this up a little bit, and then how are we gonna get there? Some of them they get out of it. It's like sweet, like I was a tactical operator for over a decade of my life. I enjoy lifting weights. Couldn't really do it because you're constantly getting deployed. Eating isn't there. Something that lifestyle is a whole other ball of wax.
Different beast.
I could
Yep.
never do. Yeah, they do some crazy shit. But it's like cool. You want to be absolutely strong. You want to pull 700 pounds. Like you're pulling mid fours now. Let's back this up a little bit, and now we can figure it out. And some people are just like in the middle of the road. It's like this strong, and I do want to look good, depending on what season of the year it is.
Mhm.
Like cool. Now you know that. Let's back this up. But just that general, and as you go along those general avenues, those 3 avenues, you'll find out for sure if that's what you want. But at least at that time, you're heading in that direction, and you
Yep.
know where the ship's going.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. But I agree with what you're saying. Sometimes you just gotta lay the hammer down. You just gotta tell them. I had a 45-minute phone call 2 weeks ago with one, and I'd be really blatant. It's like you want to do this, you want to do that, to do these things. I need to see you twice a week. I don't need to see you any more than that, but I need to see you twice a week. And when you're kind of like coming in, you're setting a schedule up 2 times a week, and then you are not coming in this time because you want to go see a movie. Barbie came out. You want to go see Barbie. True story. You want to see Barbie. Like, yeah, that really happened. Yeah, it was like, oh, it's like Barbie will be there tomorrow. Barbie
Yep.
will be there later that day. Barbie will be there next week. Barbie will stream probably within 2 weeks of leaving theaters. You're
Yep.
not going to miss the Barbie. You're going to get your Barbie. It's not a problem. The patriarchy is not leaving. It'll be there. Don't worry. Like,
It's just wanting to be a
That
part of the
conversation did not end
conversation.
well, by the way. It did
I
not end well.
imagine.
That was not a good
No,
ending conversation.
you brought
Um,
Barbie into it, Joe. How could you?
I don't care.
I just want to be able to be a part of the conversation of this Barbie movie.
I I got so
It's
sick of it.
Athens.
I
Yeah.
was told by a guy, he's like, dude, I went there with my girlfriend, watch this, and apparently it's all about like the patriarchy and how
Mhm.
men rule the world and how women have no say, and there's the deeper meaning stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy, he went to go with his girlfriend. His girlfriend wanted to go. He's like, fine, whatever. He sits there. He's like, from the minute it started, I could not believe I was sitting there watching this. Everyone around me was wearing pink. It was unbelievable. These guys, all the guys I know are just like big men. You know, and
Yeah.
they're big men, barrel chested, bench mid to upper fours. They're like, this is obscene. They're watching it and like literally like, dude, people clapped when that movie was over.
Oh my
They
God.
applauded the movie, and then they're like, and then so like a week later, whatever, he goes by himself to go watch Oppenheimer. He's like, phenomenal, phenomenal film. It was great. Like that movie ended, dead silence.
Yep.
Like no applause.
I'm trying to think of the last movie I was in that people clapped at, and I think it might have been it was the movie, the hockey movie,
Miracle on Ice.
Miracle on Ice.
How
That was
old
the
are you?
last. How old am I? I'm
How old are you?
35. I'm
What?
35.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did that come out?
I think I was a teenager.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah, I think that was the last movie I was in there where
That
people
came
were
out in the
actually
early
like
thousands?
clapping. Google is really strong. Let's find
No,
out. I'll tell you really quick. So Miracle on Ice
I've actually never seen
came
that
out.
movie. I should really see
Miracle
that.
on Ice movie. Dude, great movie, by the way.
I've never heard about anything about it.
2004.
Oh, okay. So yeah. All right. So I would have been, yeah, just leaving eighth grade at that point. Okay.
I think
Yeah,
that
I
was the
think the
last
only
movie.
movie I've ever been in where like a reaction happened was did you go see Casino Royale in theaters?
Oh yeah, great
Chris
movie.
Cornell did the cover of that, by the way.
Yeah,
Funny story about
crushed
that.
it.
Not funny, but it is kind of funny, but it's not. I did not know Chris Cornell was the lead singer of Stone Temple and Audio Slave. I literally just thought he did the cover song for that movie. And when he died, everyone was making a big deal out of it. I'm like, why? He did a good song for a Bond
He,
movie. And then I
yeah,
realized,
he
oh
did a
no,
great song.
I missed a
Yeah,
lot. I missed a lot in the
yeah,
last 20 years. Whoops. Uh, so you saw that in the theater?
yeah. I did.
Okay. When he's being tortured in the boat, naked with a junk hanging through that seat, and he's getting bashed in the balls. I remember. First off, I saw the movie 3 times,
Is that
and
when
every
people were
time
cheering?
I got a little, dude. I got a little sick. I did.
Yeah.
Do your testicles like
Oh,
suck in when you see stuff like that? It's kind of like ooh, you kind of feel them,
yep.
like retract. Oh man, like the first time I watched that, it was like a little pain and sucking
Oh
in.
yeah.
Like this is bad. And every male in the audience, and that happened because we're all like sitting there, we're thinking like he's his rope. We're like, oh, this is gonna happen. In your
What's he
mind, you're
gonna
like, I
do
hope
with
he just
that?
beats Daniel Craig's face so that my woman doesn't like Daniel Craig anymore. He looks bloody and ugly. Like, nope, he's swinging, he's going right for the sack, and bam, every male in that theater, ooh, oh, and he just like 3 or 4 times. Thankfully, the writers wrote that great stuff in where he starts just talk shit to him
Yeah,
after every smack of the balls, like talks all the crap to him, which is great. But like, that's the only reaction I think I've ever been for a theater. I think.
that was a big one. I remember being in that one too.
Yeah.
That was definitely a new fear was unlocked.
Oh, that was a whole other level. That was very much like those Bond movies with Daniel Craig, especially the first two. I mean, the first two, right? Last couple were meh.
Yeah.
No, the last Bond movie they did was garbage. I hated it. Did you watch the last one?
No, I didn't see it.
Don't.
Yeah, I decided not to.
It's not worth your
I had
time.
too many people tell. Yeah, I had too many
It's
people
not.
tell me
I
not to go
actually
see it.
bought it, and I rue that day because 3 weeks later it came out on Prime. I was so upset. Um. Anyway, that do you remember that scene in Casino Royale? Totally random. It's right before he gets taken into the boat and gets like put in the chair where he's following them with a GPS or something in his Aston Martin, and the Aston Martin
Hmm.
like think they hits what, spike strip or hits a bomb or something, and like it flips over and it rotates flips. Does that ring a
Yep.
bell at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, that it flipped like 7.5 or 8 times. That was a world record at the time. Little
For
known
roll.
fact for rolling a vehicle. Little known fact. World record.
Two things that stuck in Joe Lasco's mind from Casino Royale: world record rolling and balls getting tortured.
And parkour
New
being a thing.
fears.
Remember that?
Yeah, it was parkour was like that
That
was
was
when it was
huge.
really
That
cool.
brought
That guy.
parkour, and that guy did it. That was he was like a multiple time parkour international chase, like Frenchman.
I think did they use the same guy in
He is.
the Jason Bourne movie?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen that movie. Actually, I've only watched it on the first one on TBS. So like, obviously they cut all the fun stuff out. I've never actually sat and watched them. Is it the same
Yeah,
guy?
because
I,
after Casino Royale, like
mhm.
the parkour stuff was the thing with the chases, and then all of the Jason Bourne movies are like straight parkour chase scenes, like through like all the stuff like wherever they are, like Bangladesh or something,
Yeah.
um, jumping through people's homes and sliding through all these
Right.
crazy.
Pop windows.
Yeah. Random side note.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that my buddy sends me on the internet is whenever it's just like people doing stuff so poorly, and then it cuts to the Jason Bourne thing that goes, "Oh my God, it's Jason Bourne." Have you ever seen those?
No, I haven't.
Dude, oh my God. Incredibly entertaining. It'll be someone like shooting a basketball and it's just like the worst shot you've ever seen. And
Yeah.
they'll go, "Oh my God, it's Jason Bourne." Or they'll be like practicing like ninja stuff with a stick and it's just so terrible. And they're like, "Oh my God, it's Jason Bourne."
And was that from like the movie when he
Yeah.
was doing
They
something
clip it.
horrible?
Yeah. They clip it because Jason Bourne, his character is being chased by, is it the CIA is like coming after
Something
him
like that,
because
yeah.
he's a gone rogue agent,
They think he's rogue or
but he's
something, yeah.
doing good. Yeah, he's doing good.
Right, right.
And he was gone for a while and then he shows up and he's at the scene and the guys that are chasing him are like, "Oh my God, it's Jason Bourne." You know, it's one of my favorite lines from a movie that gets repeated all the time with just terrible things.
Because now, actually, I have a really when we go off camera, I got a really great example. I'm gonna find a way to mash those two together and send it to you.
Yeah.
I got
Okay, perfect.
because I'm thinking about that now. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff I would toss out on the back end of that would be
Yeah.
epic. Oh, that's great.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, I got one more question.
Okay, go
One
ahead.
more question right in. And so this is another write in. So what are your favorite box jump variations for fighters? I guess you can
Ooh.
extrapolate that just to combatives in general. What are your top three box jump variations?
Uh, we use a seated box jump quite a bit,
Okay.
personally. Uh, reason why is because I feel like with the seated box jump, it's a nicer way for us to coach less momentum and to do a true pressure into the ground. That's a nice way for me to use that with the compensatory patterns that I typically see with people. Another variation that we like to do is a lot of single leg hopping work and also absorption work. So starting at a higher box and landing, sometimes we'll overload that. So we'll use like an extra 20, 30-pound med ball to hold and chop so that we can load the system a little bit more, trying to make their knees, let's say, a little more quality to absorption of ground force. And that's a pretty common one we'll do. Some other things that we'll do is like variations of like sidestepping into a box jump. So
Like a lateral
facing,
shuffle?
yeah, a lateral shuffle or even just a static stand where they have to turn and jump. So finding their feeding underneath them, but things that have a lot less momentum, because most of the things they're doing is typically with momentum, when they're practicing in the cage. And so I'm trying to give them things where they're a little more static and have to create ground force.
It's like static overcome by dynamic type work.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. When you
Yeah.
when you do the seated box jumps, how low is their box?
Well, it depends on depends on where we're at with their hips. So like Drakkar, we usually have him on like a we'll start it on a 20-inch box and we work our way down. We end probably somewhere around a 12-inch box to do our seated box work from. But it always seems like that's a pattern that we have to work our way back down, just because I don't keep it around too often until we're back in camp. So we're about to start back into camp soon here. So I've been slowly getting him back into box jumps, especially because he's post ACLR. So now that we did the reverse, his coming down from a box and ground absorption has been really good. We're going to start getting him up to the box now and creating more force and stiffness that way.
Mm-hmm.
And having like a stiff landing is usually what we're going after. I don't want him doing the whole, swivel of the butt, squatting the box jump. I want him to stick the landing, stand. That's usually what we're going after. But yeah, we're trying to work our way to a 12-inch box typically.
Okay. Yeah. When you sit in that box, do you coach them to bring the feet up and bring the feet down and pounce the ground, or their feet's always in contact and it's drive through it?
So we'll do two different ways. We do both of those.
Okay.
At first we start with the feet up, feet down, feet up, feet down, and then we're hitting it with feet just staying there, and you're just trying to go up. Don't let your body rock forward. Get up. And the box, when we're doing that, the box is actually not very high, but I want them to imagine they're going to go over the box.
Yeah.
So they can get their height. And then eventually we can determine how high the box can start to get so we can make them work even harder to a target.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. When you ever have someone max a box jump, this is just interesting for me because I have an answer for this one, but when you ever have someone do a max box jump the first time, how much do you coach them on that?
0.
Oh, yes. My guy. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
I don't say a fucking thing.
Yeah, I don't coach
thing.
when it comes to literally anything max.
Yeah.
I don't coach at all. Like I just tell them nose to the ground, do it.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Like every time I have any athlete ever touch a box jump for the first time, 9 out of 10 of them are gonna say, "Well, I've never done this before." 1, and then 2, can I have a running start?
Yeah.
So I say, no, you can have a running start, and well, there's no time like the present. Like,
yep.
And I literally like they start going through it like, well, am I doing anything different? Like, I'm not gonna say a thing. This is a box jump. You're gonna make it or you're not. Yep. I have very bougie, expensive boxes that I gave Rogue over $1,100 for.
Nice.
They're very expensive boxes. You won't mess your shins up. Everything's fine. Everything's in control. When they get to a certain point, you know this, on a box jump, things change. Oh, everything between the ears completely starts changing. It's not even. I'm not even talking about like when they approach it, like, oh no, fuck no. And they step back and like, fuck it, no.
It's mid jump,
and then go. It's mid jump, or it's those last handful where their mechanics change, and I want to see what that change is.
Yep.
Because as soon as I see what that change is, I know the first thing we have to attack. If you drop right into your knees, yep, you don't rely on your hips or glutes. We're gonna do we're gonna work RDLs and like good morning patterns, and we're gonna fix that. Like if I've literally watched like I say athletes in general, and especially CrossFitters are really guilty of this. Not so much athletes because they understand full extension. They just start with flat feet and they jump from completely flat feet. Like they don't like even raise their arms up. They don't go into the ball of their foot to get that full extension, to bring down nice and fast, to get that small amortization phase, to come up. They don't even get that. It's flat. So I'm watching that. I'm like, well, gotta fix that.
Yeah.
That's first we're gonna fix. But like, yeah, I mean, max lifts, I'll make sure they're in a good position, as I'm sure you do and whatnot. But like, dude, if it's something we've been practicing for a long time, and then we go to actually like max it, like a 1 rep or a top 3 or something of that nature, I'm not going to say much because you should know what you're doing by now. Unless something has put you in a bad position, they're going to injure yourself, we'll adjust it. But box jumps, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
No, I don't see anything.
Yeah, especially with a box jump, because it is such a odd. It's one of those exercises, let's just call it, or drills, where you can really find the fear in someone very quickly. One that got me, I'll use myself as an example. Back to Gary Barron, the CrossFit coach. he would program box jump overs. So
Okay.
jumping over the box, you're not
Yeah,
jumping on it. You got to clear the box.
I'm aware. Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
for the first like two times that showed up in the programming, I just couldn't mentally, physically jump over this box. And so what he would do to make me feel bad was he'd say, "That's fine. You could just pretend you're jumping over a box right next to it." And I was like, "Well, now I feel like a child, right?"
Yeah.
It felt wrong, but it was this weird mental barrier. And then one day he finally just came up to me. He was just super blunt. He's like, "Dude, just stop being a pussy and jump over the box." But you don't think you could jump over a 24-inch box? Like, come on. He's like, "Look to your left." He's like, that 60-year-old guy has been jumping over that box for years. Like, why can't you? Like, he's absolutely right. So I finally started doing it because it's that silly little fear in my head. I'm gonna clip my feet or I'm gonna clip my shins.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, well, if you jump high enough, you won't. Just jump high enough and go over.
Yeah.
But it was so weird. And then when you see people do they're going up with a max effort
Mm-hmm.
box jump, like we're gonna see how high you can get. They'll go to like 30 and they're up there, and then they go to 36 and then they're up there. Then you just put them at 38, and it's like a
Yeah.
tsunami came.
Yeah.
It wiped them out. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is no way with that effort of a jump, there was no way that they were ever even going to get onto 30 inches
Mm-hmm.
because the mental block is one of the craziest ones that I typically witness in a gym. I think it's one of the funniest ones that exists. I just it's you could really find out a lot about a lot of people just with a box jump, and then you
Yeah.
see the ones that just send it. They're like, "Yep," and they're short. They don't make it, but boy, did they give it real effort.
Yeah.
And those are it's very rare to come by.
Yeah. I mean, I think like when you go to like repetitive box jumps, or even like a max in that case, where typically the last set of box jumps I'm doing with someone, if we're doing it for like repetitive, I will add like an inch and a half. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how many times I've added an inch and a half. They'll make the first one and they'll jack up the second or third one. One of the two. It just takes one. And they like what the hell happened? Like you're coasting it. You saw the one that was a little higher and you made it because it's body weight. And like in this case, it would be something over 36, close to
Mm-hmm.
40 inches. Like you can. Actually, no, I had an athlete the other week. His last set was 42 inches.
Nice.
Five reps of 42 inches. And like he messed the second one up. I was like, dude, you can jump on a 47. This
Yeah.
is not a problem. Not a problem. And then all of a sudden he starts clearing it again because they start getting that coast of that. And I think in your case, where you go from like a 36 to a 38, and that new Velcro piece gets on top and goes on there, like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh dear. But yeah,
It's a
yeah.
funny one. But that's a good
No,
question, though.
dude,
Like
box jumps are
I
great.
think that, yeah, I think that's a great question because the variations of jumps, like it's truly endless.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know there's a really common one in MMA specifically where it's the one where you're kneeling on the ground and you
Yeah.
jump up to a box.
Oh
That's
yeah.
really, really common.
Really common.
Um, the fighters that I work with, they're 35 and 36 years old,
Mm-hmm.
coming off a post ACLR.
Yeah.
It's probably just not the best choice to do those things that you typically see
Right.
because our goal is to have the athlete uh, not be compromised, right? So full knee flexion is, he has the range of motion and
Mm-hmm.
he has strength in those positions and he can be explosive. I just don't see the point right now to put more juice into those type of things. It just seems a little more risk
Yeah.
for very little reward.
That's a lot of ballistic pressure, even body weight. That's a lot. I mean, some
Yeah.
like, and I've seen people in the same boat where like, well, X, Y, and Z athlete, they're coming off of this, so I don't want them doing something of that nature, like a box jump like that. But
Yeah.
then 15, 20 minutes later, they're catching over 2 plates on a heavy squat clean.
Hmm.
And I'm like, it, I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
You know, I yeah. I mean, so like your variations where like you love that seated box jump one. I love that
Mhm,
one to death too. I think 9 times out of 10, I do it with their feet released. I rarely have ever had them just like stay planted and drive through. It's always
mhm.
like a foot release, with a slight rock back. I I love that one. I'll tell you another one I do like doing, and it's simple, but it's, I say effective. Everyone does it. It's the one where you're holding kettlebells.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so like my issue is though, I'm doing it. I want that to mimic body weight as much as possible. So
Mhm,
if you're doing a max body weight, you're going to start, if you know how to reload your body, you're going to be reaching through the ceiling, ball your foot, get as far as you can to snap it back into your hips and down. I give them the smallest kettlebell I have,
mhm.
which are a pair of 9 pounders.
Nice. Mhm,
Like, you reach those things up like you're just pure body weight, and you bring that elbow down, you snap right into your hip, and as soon as that heel, not even the heel, the heel of the shoe comes into contact with the deck, that wrist, that palm needs to be at your hips.
yeah.
And that teaches them really quick to bring their arm down, even with that extra weight. Just with that extra weight, for some reason, it's always slower. They never like, rah, like bring it down.
Yeah.
So they learn how to do that, and then you
Mhm,
clear those, and then put them back in their arms. That snappiness, that amortization phase, lowers just
mhm.
that much more, which is that much more power off the deck.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
huge.
that's,
But like, it's a big timing thing because a lot of people like, have like that like locked in elbow and do it
yeah.
like that almost. Like, that's not getting. You're not trying to put pressure into your rib cage. You're trying to bring it down to load your hips
Yep.
to then fire
Yeah,
up through.
to create pressure into the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
like when you're doing like in my mind's eye, I talk to people that love to do kettlebell swings,
Mhm.
and especially for CrossFitters, it's like a very effective way to have speed in the outcome of racing somebody with a kettlebell swing. Like it's like, hey, we got 60 kettlebell swings we got to do in this workout. Then we're gonna go do X, Y, or Z thing.
Yeah.
For those kettlebell swings, if you're pulling the kettlebell down, you will be faster than 50% of the field.
Yeah.
And that concept is a once you finally figure out like how to put that pressure in, it's interesting because when you come back for the true kettlebell swing, the weightlessness is true weightlessness of the swing. When you start to transition from like pure hip extension, the rest of the job is done once
Yeah.
your arms, there's zero pull. So, and it should be that way for a
Right.
kettlebell swing, but that it really sets the tone if you know how to drive that thing down in towards your hips
Yeah.
as you're coming back down. So that's funny you bring that up because that's the way I coach a kettlebell swing. Like you should be pulling it down to the ground. Don't let it pull you. You
Right.
control this thing. Yeah,
Right.
you're loading,
Yeah.
you
We're
know?
not doing zone 2 here.
No,
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
no,
Like,
no, no.
no, 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 no. Yeah, like you're saying, like putting force into the ground. Do you
Mhm,
ever watch anyone when they go into triple extension, so they shoot their hips, knees, and the ball of the foot, like they don't ever go back up to the ball of the foot. It's almost like they just kind of get their heel off the ground and then go. They never
mhm.
finish. What cue? I got a cue for that, but what cue do you use for that to tell them like, hey, finish that triple extension off at the angle through the ball of the foot? What cue do you use?
Uh, so I'll usually teach them how to. I pretend that there's quarters underneath the pads of the big toe, and I say they
Okay,
need to smush. They need to smush the quarters down.
okay.
Push on those quarters with the big toe as much as possible.
Is that Joe Cooperman original?
No, I think I learned that from shoot. It was a PT friend out in Sacramento. I think it was Carrie because she was using that cue for people doing double unders that were always on the outside of their feet.
Oh yeah,
She was like, "Oh, she's like, just imagine you have quarters underneath your big toes, and then you can start to see people's heels lifting, and then their
yeah,
pressure changing, so they're
right.
not like just constantly supinated." I was like, oh, "That's a great cue.
Yeah,
What a
that, that
simple thing."
that's I'm gonna steal that one. That's the one I see sometimes. They
Hmm.
start to like roll, they start internally, they roll to the outside. All that force just
Yeah,
disappears.
disperses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't go through the tibia,
disperses
doesn't
to
go through the
wherever it's
femur,
going to go.
nothing. They're
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I always told people like I get, and this reference is getting outdated now, so I gotta find a new one. But you saw must have seen at least one or two of the recent slew of like 5 or 6 horrible Superman movies, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you know whenever he takes off now, when Henry Cable takes off, he just kind of like he'll like throw his fist in the ground and then would come up and look, the ground's like fucking destroyed
Yeah.
because
He's
I don't know,
Superman, dude.
spinach. Yeah, he's Superman.
Yep.
Yes, it does his thing. I always tell people like I want you to take the ball of your foot, your big toe. I want you to break where I have him jump. I have a plywood baser. I want you
Mhm.
to break the plywood baser like a Superman and just blow it out. Like that's what I want you to do. I've
Yeah.
had 2 people in the last 3 months that have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you got to
I'm
change it
like,
up there.
shit. I'm like, damn it. I've got to find a new one. They're starting to
Maybe
outage me
try it.
now.
Maybe
This is
try
bad.
I think anime is making a strong comeback. You can always try Goku.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because my so Coach Walburn, he was my guy at my other coach at Fort Knox when I was there.
Mhm.
He actually ended up taking over Fort Knox when I left. He was really big into that.
Mhm.
He would toss those references out all the time, and he would like, "Haven't you ever seen Dragon Ball Z?" I'm like, I have not. Do you know who Goku is? Like, I'm aware of who that is, but he was in this ball and he's doing these pull-ups, but like time frozen, so he could like train, and gravity was
Yeah.
less, so he could do like 1,000 reps. Like what? Well, if gravity is less, he could do 1,000 reps. Isn't all thing aren't all things relative? So if gravity was real, he could do 100 and get the same thing. He wouldn't have to save time. I don't understand what's going on. He got so
It just is, it's super cool for kids though. I remember that's funny you're quoting that because my brother talks to me about that scene. He's like, "Oh, remember when Goku did 1,000 hanging sit-ups?" I was
yeah.
like, "Yeah." He was weightless and time had stood still. I
Like
was like, "Yeah." If
well,
we're thinking about it logically from a physics standpoint, it sounds like a lot easier.
I mean,
Like it's
not
not
even a
that
physics
hard.
standpoint, just a strength and conditioning standpoint, just a
Yeah,
reality
and
standpoint. Like
strain. Yeah.
you would, if you didn't stop time or lower gravity, you would be done so much sooner, and you could do less.
Yes.
Again,
You could
road
do
mileage on
less.
the body, we could reduce it and really
Yep.
optimize his abdominal wall.
Yep.
I mean,
But 1,000 sounds
fixed.
way cooler.
It
Yeah,
does. It does. It's like Anchorman. You walk in, it's like I've just done over 1,000. Just
exactly. I
done
mean,
over a
people are more
thousand.
impressed by the number. If I did 10, 30 must be better.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Let's Americanize this anime.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
Well, here I've got my last one for you, and
Excellent.
it's another shifter
Oh,
because I get asked this question quite a bit from coaches and trainers around the valley, or even sometimes people will message me. They say, ask this question: what they want me to I don't know if they want me to come up with the exact answer for them, but sometimes it's worded this way. They say, "What should my parameters be to be the time that I refer to a physical therapist, a chiropractor, or whoever I work with?" And so I have my thoughts around that, but what are yours based off of your experience?
what time?
Yeah. When do you feel the need to finally like be like, hey, or do you have parameters of like, I think this is something that we can handle inside here and we don't necessarily need to go that route right now?
Oh, so like something's amiss in your body. At what point do you say I'm jacked?
Yep.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Three
Okay.
weeks. If anyone ever comes to me and is like X, Y, and Z things are hurt, I'm like, okay, is it unlivable, untrainable? Like, no, I'm still training around. Say, okay, listen, don't be stupid.
Mhm.
Don't do things that you like. I got a guy who played football for Dayton, and genetically, just incredible genetics.
Mhm.
He decided he already has a really tight back. His psoas is just he's one of the tightest I've ever seen in my life.
Mhm.
And he went out and got like blackout drunk, messed his back up. Like, yeah, you're really strong, and you get blackout drunk, something's gonna happen,
Mhm.
and it did. Like it just happened. So I stopped with 3 weeks. If at 2 weeks there isn't any monochrome of it getting better, because
Mhm.
typically, for at least for me and people I've worked with, like 2 weeks is usually a time where like if it's getting better or hasn't to some
Yep.
degree. If it's gotten better in 2 weeks, I personally, as a man,
Yeah.
not someone who I mean, I get told by Corella all the time, like I need to take better care of my body. I need to see more doctors. But like as a man,
Mhm.
like I don't see the need. And then if it hasn't in 2 weeks, still take the third week and start finding a chiropractor or PT.
Yep.
that you would trust. Find that preferably someone who has been effed up somehow and could reference you to that person versus just going on Google and finding one.
Yeah, chiropractor near me or PT near me.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's always a 3 week rule for me. And it's
Yeah.
you know, had a coach message me the other day asking about he has a kid who has a knee who's had surgery on, nothing major. It's just to a point just moving out some like ones and twos, these little floaters in there.
Mhm.
And it's just about strengthening around the knee. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but his doctor is saying he doesn't need PT for that.
Mhm.
So just kind of slowly get back into the game, slowly strengthen the hamstring, slowly do wider box squats, take pressure off the knee.
Mhm.
And probably in 2 to 3 weeks, it's gonna be feeling a lot better just purely from the fact you're getting motion in it. Nothing
Yep.
crazy. Like the Dre situation where like, yeah, we're not doing, kneeling to like low catch into a box jump on
Mhm.
it, but you're just getting that motion down. So I'd say 3 weeks. What about
Yeah.
you?
No, I think that that's actually a really good number. Yeah, I tell them. I always tell, especially the younger ones, I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable or confident at all, the best thing to do is to find the person that is comfortable and confident with that, to give that person the green light to do things with you.
Yeah.
That's number one. Versus, because you probably have that experience, you've trained so much that you've been through it so much, like
Yeah.
you've had these tweaks, you've had these little injuries, you've had these, maybe like, I'm not injured, but it's definitely kind of getting in the way. If I just kind of keep moving and I'll keep an eye on it, okay, we're doing good. These things aren't falling behind. These things are still going this way, or I'm like, I'm not trying to go this way and I'm maintaining and I'm just okay.
Right.
You know that from your experience. So you're using that experience to help these people through. But when people haven't had that experience, they need to learn and kind of go through it. So I'll tell them, that first one, which is, if you feel like it's wrong, go see someone. Like, there's nothing wrong with someone being assessed and getting green
Right.
lighted, or even just getting worked on, to be honest,
Yeah.
because everybody benefits from getting worked on.
Yeah.
It's just having the confidence in the practitioner you send them to, that they're not going to be like, you should stop doing X, Y, or Z thing, never do this. It's like, that's not going to help anybody. Um, so that's one. And then number two, I usually tell them, if this is getting in the way of their life, that's usually a good sign for them to get something looked at, to get taken care of. Because sometimes people can go to the gym and they feel really good, but then they leave and now they're like, I feel like crap again. But they're telling you about it. And you're like, is it the training I'm doing? Am
Hmm.
I doing something wrong here? It's like, that's usually a good sign that something's happening with their habits, that we might be missing, and you need some help. So that's another example. And that could be after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But I do tell them, like, anywhere from the 1 to 3 week mark is pretty typical. That's a good way to do it. If they're regressing quickly, definitely get them into someone right away.
No.
If they're showing you signs of, like, they're like, oh, now I can't even lift my arm. It was bad the other day, but today I can't even lift my arm. It's like, oh, well, don't wait it out 3 weeks.
That sounds like a rotator cuff.
Definitely.
Probably should take care of that
Yeah,
sooner than later.
who knows? Yeah, it
Right.
could be that their neck is having some serious issues too.
Yeah.
So it's like those type of things, like where it seems like, it's like, that just seems so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is weird, and they should probably get that looked at. But it doesn't mean they shouldn't train. It just means they need to have parameters to their training, and so that's typically what I'll do with coaches when they do reach out. Outside of that, when I do have a patient that comes in and they are the type that'll say, "Oh, I haven't gone to my trainer or coach in 3 weeks because of this thing." I was like, I usually ask them, like, "Why haven't you gone there?" And like, they'll typically tell me, "It feels better when I start to move it." I'm like, "Okay, that's a good thing." I'm like, "From here, let me get with your trainer or coach, because I don't know them, and let me chat with them about what's going on. But I think you should be back in there. We're just going to do this a little more methodically." So, educating them on, maybe loading parameters. Um, a general rule of thumb I'll give people, like, as like in the future, like an education piece. I'm like, hey, in the future, this is typically a good idea. You feel weird and it feels wrong. 50% rule. is a pretty easy rule to follow, and you can put that towards all the things of progressive overload. So that's range of motion, tempo, and load, are the three big hitters. So you can go 50% of the range of motion and see how it feels. You're doing pretty good. That's rehabilitation. You can do 50% of the load. If it's sub threshold, that's rehabilitation. If it's too uncomfortable, obviously we're going to keep dropping that number down, but 50% is a really safe number to be. So I like to give people that little bit of a parameter to play with. But if things just never progress or they're regressing, that's when they should get help.
Yeah, I mean, and progression can be some, especially with like bigger injuries, can be something really basic. I mean, I've had that twice in my life where my lower back is just
Mm-hmm.
gone. One was I was doing an axle sumo pull, and it just
Mm-hmm.
my lower back just went. Other time
Mm-hmm.
I literally spent 6 hours with Corella rearranging half my gym. I picked up a bench to reinsert. It was a heavy bench, but to reinsert it into this nebula low row. And as soon as I picked it up, I felt my back like just pop. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew that. And like for the next like, oh, I woke up the next day like my back has never been so tight. Like I would just get a little thoracic curvature and I couldn't bend over anymore. But it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those systems where as every other day or so, I knew it was painful, but I could get further and further down. So I knew that psoas was releasing.
Yep.
It's like over time, it's like, but that in the end of 3 weeks, it's like, oh, this definitely is infinitely better than it was even 2 weeks ago. Like,
Yeah.
so as long as you're getting incremental progress,
Yeah.
I
It's
think,
it always comes back down to the adaptation that everybody's chasing.
hmm
It's like you, as Darwin would say, it's adapt or die.
hmm
And it's super true, because sometimes those adaptations where people just say, "Oh, I'm not gonna move anymore because I'm gonna let this thing just kind of ride out and relax on its own." It's like the adaptation that you will get from that is gonna lead you to further injury later,
yeah,
and that's when you're really in trouble. And your 3-week rule will turn into this person's not moving. There's weird stuff happening, so you're forced to send them somewhere quickly. That's adapt or die. That's
yeah,
kind of the name of the game.
yeah, yeah. I gotta be honest
Yeah.
too. Like every time I've had those little like back injuries, I
Hmm.
always think to myself like, yeah, well, I haven't been doing a lot of lower ab work. It's like, yeah, well,
Yeah, you're human.
I haven't been doing as much glute work as I should. Yeah, well, reverse
Yeah,
hyper
you're human.
THD. It's like, probably should be doing a lot more of that because like I'm just not, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
it's
mean,
like you can't be like I feel it the internet is it's so easy to show people all this amazing stuff that people are doing all the time. But it's
mhm,
like they're compiling things, and like at the end of the day, there's a couple things that you can't avoid in life, and one of those things is going to be something's going to hurt. Something's going to give. You can do everything in the world perfectly, but something's eventually going to give. You can do absolutely nothing at all, and something's going to give. It, it's just moments in time, and it is what it is.
yeah,
You're a human being. If animals could talk, I bet you, I bet you they'll tell you
well,
things don't feel good all the time.
yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we discussed last week. Was like, are you prepared to be injured?
Hmm.
Like, are you prepared? Because you can really hurt yourself just living your life, never walking into a gym. Like, are you
Yep.
prepared to do that? Like, 'cause it's gonna happen
Yeah,
one time or
just a
another. It's
matter
gonna
of time.
happen. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I think that's all I got. Unless you have any inspirations you want to toss out there.
I think that's a really negative note to leave people on. So
Oh,
it's
you're
perfect. No,
gonna
I'm
get
just
hurt.
kidding. Yeah, you're gonna get hurt.
Go
Call
see
your
Barbie.
chiropractor.
It's still out there. It's still there
Um, Maybe everybody should go see Barbie to bring those spirits up.
a
That'd
little
be a
bit.
pretty good thing. Or
Just
Oppenheimer.
huh,
Another happy
either
movie.
one. Either one's gonna do it for you.
Two very happy movies.
That's right.
No, I do think a good positive note to leave people on is is progress will happen if you're working,
And not
and
injured.
people will work. And yeah, well, you'll get injured. Yeah,
Or you'll get injured.
either way. But either way, I think that there's this weird connotation of fear mongering of bulletproofing somebody, and it's setting the expectation that nothing bad will happen. And it's unfortunate when it does happen, but I just don't think anybody can get away with it. So it's like, I don't know how to flip this into a positive. It's just like, it's not that maybe the positive is it's not that big of a deal. It's just a learning moment,
Yeah,
you know?
that whole idea of like calling programs bulletproof this and bulletproof that, like people think they're gonna do it and they're never gonna be. Yeah, exactly. They're never gonna be injured again. It's like, no, no, you will. It's
Yeah.
more likely than not. I mean, I'm not trying to be negative about it, but it's just
It's just reality.
that's just yeah, that's the world we live in. Those are the bodies we have.
Yeah. And so
There's
do cool shit, have good times,
yeah,
party hard, and drink lots of water.